Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils win again. Nick Castellanos gets his poetic justice in a big spot for the Fightins.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me for some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons. This is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening in podcast form today. If you can't watch on the YouTube, you can listen in podcast form. We're available literally wherever you get your podcasts. And like I just said, we're also on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to Locked On Phillies yet, come on. What are you doing? It's free. It's easy. It gets you notifications when new episodes are posted. It really helps us out. It's a great thing to do, and I'd really appreciate it if you did that. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Go ahead and check out our friends over at Game Time. You could go see Phils Mets this weekend, a monster series. The Phils now only 1 game back in the division after the Mets fell to the Braves last night. So, good time to catch one of the biggest series in baseball happening over the weekend, probably the biggest series in baseball. The Phils win last night. Nick Castellanos gets his poetic justice. We're going to talk about the big takeaways from last night's game, a 4-2 victory over the Fish. We're also going to talk a little bit about Ranger and how good he has been, right? We're going to leave the Ranger Suarez conversation out of the recap because I want to get deeper into this whole how the fan base should view Ranger right now thing. And then we're going to preview game 4 of the series with the Marlins, which is tonight at 6:40 with Christopher Sanchez on the mound. But last night was I don't know, it felt like a comfortable victory for the Phils, at least to me. It got a little tight there at the end, but when you play a team like the Marlins, as soon as you go up early, you're like, okay, you're probably feeling pretty darn good about their chances to win the game. And the Phillies went up early because of a 3-run bomb by Bryson Scott. He's been abysmal lately. There's no other way to put it. He stunk. And to see him do this is a really good sign. Now, we've seen him have other big home runs this year. Speaking of the Mets, he had one off Edwin Diaz up in New York that extended a game against the Mets a little bit. Unfortunately, the Phils would end up losing that one. But the point is, he's been in a rough spot, had a big swing last night. Maybe that's something that gets him going. Bryson Scott had a nice night at the dish. The Phillies could really use him to get hot, but kind of everybody else in the lineup is rolling right now. So it's fine that he hasn't been hitting all that well as of late. When you talk about team overall for him, he's going to want to get going more, and maybe that's a spot for him to do that. But, JT Realmuto had a big RBI to add on after that 3-run home runs, make it 4, and the Phillies would have won with 3, but having that extending run is good. Here's the thing, though. Like, the end of the game is just – this is why baseball is such a beautiful, beautiful thing and a maddening thing sometimes. So the whole saga with the Nick Castellanos stuff, I'd imagine it's over now, right? Like, this is probably the last time, hopefully, fingers crossed, that we're going to talk about it because everybody's good, right? We're all chill. Rob Thompson was asked about it before the game yesterday, kind of like, yo, is he good? Are you good? Are you guys good together? And Rob was like, yeah, basically nothing to see here. We're good. I'm good. He's good. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. So that's a good sign. And you expect that with a veteran like Castellanos who understands how this works. Cross the line, got that. It is what it is. You move on. Like, Rob Thompson has the respect of this locker room. Clearly, the players love him, and he's handled the locker room well since taking over for Joe Girardi 3 years ago. Yeah. What was it, 22? Yeah, 3 years ago. So no worries there about these long-reaching locker room issues, but the whole saga is just great. So Monday night, play a normal game against the Marlins. Castellanos gets lifted for a defensive replacement. He gets ticked off, says something over the line. Don't know who it was directed to. Don't know what he said, but he says something. So Rob Thompson sits him. And in the game that he sits, Max Kepler plays right field. In that game, Max Kepler has a misplay in right field. And then the Castellanos family goes on Twitter, and not Nick himself, but some like his family members tweeting some stuff about Max Kepler, which is not a good look for anybody, but it is what it is. The family wants to defend their guy. They're probably upset he got sat in Miami, which is like his home state of Florida, his home area. And they were probably there to watch him play, upset that they couldn't. I understand. If, like when I was playing college baseball, if I was scheduled to pitch in a game and my mom makes a drive to go down there to watch me throw and I'm not throwing, she's probably ticked off. I want to watch my kid play. I get it. They're family. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's just so funny that Max Kepler, who's been so solid in left field, goes to right field for one game for Nick Castellanos, who got sat for a defensive replacement argument, and he makes a misplay in the outfield. And then, as fate would have it, and the baseball gods would have it, Nick Castellanos back in the game. Not only does he go 2 for 5, which is a nice little bounce back for him after having the night off involuntarily the night before. 9th inning, runners on first and second, down 2 outs, shot hit to right field, back. Castellanos at the wall, jumps into the wall, makes the catch to end the game, immediately untucks the shirt. That Nick Castellanos swagger that we all know and most of us love. And it's just like, of course, it's a big defensive play from the guy that was initially sacked because he had an issue with getting a defensive replacement put in for him. Like, can you make this stuff up? No, you can't. But that's baseball. That's Philadelphia Phillies baseball. There's never a dull moment with this darn baseball team. But that was great to see from Nick, and his teammates embraced him after. And this team in general, the managers, coaches, they all embraced him. They love Nick. He just crossed the line. And that happens. And over the course of 162 or over the course of years with the franchise, you're going to have some abrasion here and there. That's why a guy like Rob Thompson, who knows how to handle a locker room, is super important to have leading this ball club. You can question stuff about the way he manages in game. You can question stuff about the way he does the lineup. You can question stuff about who he holds accountable and how. Like, I get all of that. But at the end of the day, you can't say he doesn't have this locker room behind him. And that's a good thing. And you can't say Nick Castellanos doesn't have this locker room behind him. And that was a big play by Casty to save that game and get the final out. So I love that it happened for him. I'm happy for Nick. I'm happy for the Phillies. Another victory. They've won 2 of 3 down in Miami. It sets them up for a chance to win the series if they can win tonight's game. So everything's all good. And again, Mets drop a game to the Braves. Phils are 1 back in the NL East. Things are not drama-free because of the Castellanos stuff, but things are good right now in Phillies land. Now, there was part of the game, and I do want to point to just a little bit, that has become a sore spot for some fans, and I get it, and something to monitor. The reason why Nick Castellanos had to make a potentially game-saving play out there in right field up against the wall is because, well, Matt Stum gave up hard contact. And Matt Stum came in for the 9th inning, gave up a run, which has been kind of a trend for him lately. He's not looked like his all-star self from 2024. And that's a problem, right? Anytime Stum, Kerkering, or Romano show any signs of weakness, little alarm should go off in your head, because the Phillies don't have much else in the bullpen outside of those 3 guys. They're premium pitchers, more so than like other back ends of bullpens where you have maybe a guy you could fit in there if one of those guys struggles, or you have a better long reliever that could eat up some innings, so you only have to go to like 2 of your high leverage guys per game. No, the Phillies, if they're in a big game, they're basically going, unless the starter goes 7, they're going Romano and Kerkering and Stum. All of those guys are going to throw. Even last night in a game that went 7, you still went Kerkering, you still went Stum. So you're going to see these guys a bunch. And if Stum starts to really get to a point where you can't trust him out there on the mound, and I'm not there yet with him, right? When I see Michael Mercado and Joe Ross and guys like that pitching for this baseball team, like Matt Stum looks like an all-star in comparison to those guys. All due respect to them, and they're trying their best to make something happen, but they're not high potential arms in the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. It just is what it is. That's why they're getting the middle innings, and the other guys are getting the later innings. But Strom's a guy to keep an eye on. He's going to have to settle in a little bit more. He's a very important piece of this bullpen with Jose Alvarado not in it. He's forced into a bigger role with Alvarado's PED suspension, and we've seen that since that news came down. But he's been shaky. Now, this could just be a shaky stretch, and he could really figure it out. But for a guy that this is much like the Aaron Nola thing, right? I've talked about this before on the podcast. I've talked about this on the radio. Nola, when he struggles, it draws more ire from the fan base because when Nola struggles, he doesn't throw quite as hard. when he doesn't throw quite as hard, that means the contact he gives up is more solid. When he gives up more solid contact, it means more home runs. Home runs have been a long issue for Aaron Nola. That's just kind of the reality of it. Strom's a similar way. He doesn't have 99 coming out of the left side. He's like 92, 93, maybe 94 if he gasses it up. So when he struggles, it looks less visibly pleasing. He's not your typical back end of a 2025 bullpen arm because he doesn't throw all that hard. And that way, when his struggles are different than Kerkering struggles. Like when Kerkering struggles, it's either command, a breaking ball that when you hit a breaking ball, they have like just always seems it spins better backspin for whatever reason. And you can carry those balls further when you get them. Or he gives up like these weird bloop hits because he's just not spotting stuff in enough, out enough, whatever. But it looks different when Kerkering struggles, when Romano struggles, than when Stum struggles. And it's just the lower velocity that leads to a little bit more of a question from the fan base on Stum. And that's where we're at right now with him. But he's not pitching terribly. He's just not looking like a back-end guy. And the Phillies can't be down to only two dudes that can throw out of the pen late. And both of them are righties in Romano and Kerkering. So we'll see. I'm a little concerned about the bullpen in the moment, just like I'm very concerned about the bullpen overall. And like when we're talking about October, but even just looking forward to the Mets series, starting pitching is going to have to be on point because there have been some shaky performances, but a win's a win. Bad base running, questions in the bullpen, defense, all of that aside, the Phillies have won 2 or 3 against the Marlins. They swept the Blue Jays before that. They won 2 or 3 from the Cubs before that. They're starting to roll right now. They have been rolling, and we'll see if they can go get another win tonight. Speaking of guys that have been rolling, Ranger Suarez has been on a tear. We're going to talk about him coming up next, and I have a plea to the fan base. You need to do this, or you're going to regret it next year. I'll tell you what that is coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about trade coffee, though, because whether you're gearing up for back-to-back meetings or maybe you're shuttling kids back and forth to activities, maybe you're tackling an endless to-do list. We all have those, right? Things just keep piling up. Well, your morning sets the tone for it all. And that's why your morning should start with the perfect cup of coffee, crafted just for you. And that's where Trade comes in. Trade Coffee is the #1 coffee destination in the U.S., delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Whether you're a cold brew fan or a pour-over purist, they got a roast that you're going to love, and they're going to know you love it because guess what? They have a quiz that you can take, and it matches you with your first bag, and they're going to get it spot on. They're going to know your preferences. And the coffee they send you, well, it's going to be fresh. It's going to smell amazing. It's going to ruin grocery store coffee for you because you're going to be like, wow, this is so much easier, so much better. And if the first match isn't perfect, if you're like, I don't buy it, I don't think they can match my preference. Well, Trade is going to replace it for free until they get it just right. Yeah, they're going to do everything they can to get you that perfect cup of coffee right off the rip. I love that their prices are also comparable to grocery store brands because you don't want to be spending crazy amounts of money. We're all trying to save money these days, but the flavor is on a whole different level. So what's not to love? I got something better for you too. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off a 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/lockedonmlb for 50% off your 1-month trial. Again, one more time, I'll just remind you so you don't forget it. Maybe you didn't have your coffee yet this morning, but you would have with Trade. It's drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. Ranger freaking Suarez, man, this guy, I love Ranger. Like, there's going to be a day, like 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line. God willing, I'm still here. No, I'm only 30. I should be. But where I'm going to look back on this era of Phillies baseball, and there's going to be Wheeler, and there's going to be Harper, and there's going to be Schwarber, and Turner, and Romuto, and Castellanos, and I'm going to be thinking about the glory days and all of those names of like these great star players that had these great moments in Philadelphia. And then another name's going to pop into my mind, and it's going to be Ranger Suarez. And I'll be like, you know what? I don't know if we ever truly appreciated how special Ranger Suarez is. And I'm not talking about Wheeler special. Like, Wheeler's like best pitcher on the planet special. But Ranger is talented as well. And there are other things that are just like you should love about the guy. The way he fields, the way he spots, the way that you could hit a 150-mile-an-hour comeback right at his melon. and he's just going to snap it off, catch it, and move on. Like, I don't know, he's swatting a fly. Nothing gets the guy's heart rate up. He was great again last night. He goes 7 innings. He strikes out 8. He only allows 1 earned. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the YouTube comments, I think he's got the longest active streak of quality starts in the majors right now. And he had another one last night, and he gets the win. And he's just rolling for this team. Point 1, number 1 point here for all of you out there that are creating your trade scenarios and putting up these stupid graphics on social media that no team would ever accept. Ranger Suarez is not getting traded. No, not trading him. Do you see what he did last night? Do you want him to do that in October? You've seen him do it in October before. So what? You're going to take that piece that could be very valuable to you winning games on the biggest stage. That guy that I just laid out, why his heart rate never goes up. And you're going to move him to another team, another contending team, someone that's willing to go and get a rental for a couple months that's going to hit free agency after this year because his contract is up. Why would you ever do that? Why would you ever say, well, we're not going to have Ranger on this team? What, because you want to get something because he's going to walk after this year? You know what I want to get? I want to get a World Series win. That's what I want for this team. And you're doing that with Ranger Suarez. You're probably going to have a much tougher time without Ranger Suarez, right? He's a big piece of the puzzle. And I don't think we truly appreciate how big of a piece of the puzzle Ranger Suarez is. And nights like last night, or really nights like every night he throws, should remind you, this dude, when he's on, is really, really good. He's as good as just about anybody in the game when he has his good nights. And he's been having some good nights recently. But here's the part 2, right? He's not getting traded, but you might say, well then I don't know. How much time do we have with him? Are the Phillies going to pay him? Probably not. I see it as a very low percentage chance that when Ranger Suarez hits free agency at the end of this year, the Phillies will be in the market for him. I just don't think it's going to work. I think there's going to be some team out there, and it's credit to Ranger, that sees him as a 2. Maybe a lesser team that sees him as a 1, that sees this guy as like, wow, numbers are unreal when he's healthy and available. We'll take the risk and see if maybe we get a good Ranger Suarez year, a good couple of years. And he deserves to get paid. And I don't think he'll get that here in Philadelphia because you got Wheeler, you got Nola, you got Painter, you got Abel, you got Sanchez, you got Luzardo, you got all of these guys. We talk all the time about how the Phillies rotation is just overcrowded with really good arms, a good problem to have. But Ranger's a guy that I think this fan base really, really connects with. I think there's a lot of folks out there that really love Ranger Suarez. And I want you to understand this. This is probably the last season that he will throw with the Philadelphia Phillies. And there's that old saying, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, right? Well, I don't know if I want to go that far because that's looking too far into the future. But there's another great one from The Office where Andy Bernard talks about, well, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days before they were gone. And you're in the good old days of Ranger Suarez right now. I want to make sure that everybody out there, when you get a chance to watch him out on the mound and see the way he throws and just the way he attacks hitters, forces soft contact and creates opportunities for this team to win, like he should be one of the fan favorites on this team. And I think a lot of people do love Ranger. I'm not saying like, oh, we don't like Ranger, but I'm saying that if I was to tell you, and I basically am right now, that you're watching the last 4 months of Ranger Suarez, right? It's what, June. So July, August, September, October. Last 4.5, we'll call it, months of Ranger Suarez pitching for your favorite baseball team. That's reality right now, as I see it. He's going to go to another team in free agency this next year. And some people will say trade him because of that. I will say, well, send him off with a ring. And he's a big part of what I think the Phillies could do in October. So I don't want to move him, and I don't think the Phillies will. And that leaves us with one option. Get as much out of him as you can while he's still here. And part of that is on you as a fan of the Philadelphia Phillies. Get as much enjoyment as you can personally. You've heard me talk about this before. My number one goal in doing this is to make sure, right? It's not to, I'm not a reporter, okay? I'm not going to break news. I'm going to tell you what other people break news on, but I give you my opinion. And I also try and help you enjoy Philadelphia Phillies baseball as much. Sometimes that's harder than others, but part of this is like me urging you, enjoy the time that you have with Ranger Suarez now, because he ain't going to be here forever. He's probably not going to be here next year. I just want to make sure that you're well aware of that so that you don't get caught off guard of like, damn, I wish I could watch another Ranger start. And that's going to happen anyway when he moves on, because I do firmly believe he's going to move on. But this is a dude that's really important to this team, really fun to watch, throwing really well right now. You may also want to enjoy it for the time being because often he has issues with sustaining this for long periods of time because of injury issues or being in the right shape or just any kind of weird stuff that's happened with Ranger in his Phillies tenure. But the fan base should drink this in while you got it, because it's a very, very special thing to watch this guy out on the mound. There's not many guys out there like Ranger Suarez, and I don't want you to miss it. Coming up tonight, another guy that's very special that's on the mound. That's pretty much every night for the Phillies starting rotation. But Cristopher Sanchez looks to build on a great stretch that he's been on, and he gets the opportunity to face a Marlins lineup that has been non-existent outside of the later innings of Game 2 in this series against the Phillies. So how did the Phils win the series and head into the series with the Mets with some momentum? We're also going to take a look at what the Mets-Braves matchup is and see if the Phillies could potentially move into a tie with the Mets for first place in the NL East with a big series this weekend. Are you kidding me? How awesome would that be? We'll talk about it coming up next as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. There's no better time to tell you about Game Time. There's legitimately no better time, because maybe you're deciding, like you're sitting here right now and you're like, wow, I don't have weekend plans. What's going on tomorrow? Well, the Phillies are playing the Mets in South Philadelphia for the NL East. Now, it's June, so it's not like whoever wins this wins the division, but whoever wins this series will probably be in first place in the division. And you could get in the building thanks to Game Time. Maybe it's game day and you're watching this back on like Friday or something, or you just think about this on Saturday or Sunday, and you suddenly realize, I want to be there. I want to watch Phil's Mets. Well, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, well, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you so there's less Mets fans in the stands. Yeah, Game Time makes all of that possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Now, it's not just baseball. It's all sports. It's comedy. It's concerts. It's theater. It's all of that great stuff that you need a ticket to get into. They'll help you out with that. But come on. You're watching this podcast, you're listening to this podcast because you're a Phillies fan. Use it on Phillies tickets. They've got so many great features, incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. They're awesome. And again, they're the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games. I've said Phillies Mets a billion times. I'll say it one more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll even get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with Game Time. Let's take a look at the matchup. Phil's Marlins, Game 4 down in Miami. It's been a drama-filled series, and most of it has not been on the field. But Cristopher Sanchez is going to look to make it another quiet night tonight for the Miami Marlins. He's on the mound. He got a 5-2 record this year. In 79 2/3 innings pitched, he struck out 88 batters. I think it's got an underrated storyline of the Phillies season, how good the strikeout stuff has been from Cristopher Sanchez this year. The Marlins are a lineup that can be strikeout prone. Ranger just K'd 8 last night. Can Sanchez go double digits? Can he go 10? I think he gets, I'd set the line at 7.5, and I'd take the over on Cristopher Sanchez strikeouts. He's been really, really good lately. You go into a look at his last 5 starts, and let's just run through this. I mean, against Toronto, I went 7 innings, allowed 2. Against Pittsburgh, 7 innings, allowed 2. Toronto, 6 innings, allowed 1. Atlanta, 5 2/3, allowed 2. Not his best, still a win in that game. Against the Athletics, 4 2/3 innings, gave up 3. Wiped that mound out there in Sacramento. Miserable. And you could see him kicking at it in that. So on real major league mounds, he's been a monster lately. And the Phillies have been winning a lot of his starts. The only one of those games of the last 5 that they lost was a 2-1 game in Pittsburgh that Paul Skeens threw while the team was also imploding on themselves. Sanchez has been really good. He should be the biggest reason why you expect the Phillies to win tonight. Edward Cabrera's on the mound for the Marlins. He's got 4.1 ERA. Now, he's more of a strikeout guy than what you've seen in this series. 52 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 58. I always look at this. He's given up 7 home runs, though, in 52 2/3 innings. Sanchez has given up 7 in nearly 80 innings. So you can get him with the long ball, and clearly the 4.1 ERA says, hey, we can go get him. He's given up more hits than he has innings pitched. He's walked 23 guys. Like, nobody that the Marlins are going to throw at you is that great of a pitcher. So with a righty on the mound, maybe this is another chance for Stott to get things going. Maybe this is a chance for Kepler to stay hot. Maybe this is a chance for June Schwarber to show up down in Miami. Like, there's so many opportunities for this Phillies lineup. Brandon Marsh has been tearing the cover off the ball. Maybe it's a chance for him. Like, you see all of this great stuff happening with the Phillies lineup. And now where your mind goes, if you're like a negative Nancy on the Phillies, or maybe you'll call it pragmatic, but I like to see things positively. So maybe pragmatism is negative to me. Whatever your view on the team is, there are some people that are like, well, how long is it going to last that Brandon Marsh is hitting the ball well? How long is it going to last that Alec Boehm is hitting like 320? How long is it going to last that JT Realmuto is starting to drive in some runs? That Max Kepler is showing off a little bit of power? I don't do that, man. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, as we talked about on air this morning on Kincaid and Salchunas on the Fanatic. Andrew Salchunas, one of my coworkers, the host of the morning show, he said that, and he's absolutely right. I'm not looking for when will the good stuff end. I'm just enjoying it while we go. And it's another opportunity against a lesser pitcher. So I think the Phillies should win. ESPN Analytics gives them a 59.6% chance to win the game. So you love to see that. They should win. They should win the series. I said 3 out of 4. That's what you're looking for, and that's a great thing. But that's not the only game we'll have our eyes on tonight. The Mets are taking on the Braves down in Atlanta. They've lost the first 2. And the Mets are in an absolute slide right now. It happens to other teams too, believe it or not. The Mets have lost 5 straight. So they got swept by the Rays at Citi Field. They go down to Atlanta and lose the first 2. Now, there's this competing school of thought with the Mets-Braves series. You don't want to see the Braves gain too much momentum. They're 33-39, so still 6 games under 500. I still think the Braves are dead. But if you wanted to kind of balance, maybe people are looking at this and saying, I'd like to see the Mets take a game to make sure that Atlanta doesn't get too hot. I don't really care one way or another. I want to see the Mets lose because they're the Mets, and I'll always hate them more than the Braves, I think. But to look at this one, it's a great opportunity for Atlanta. Strider throwing tonight. We hate him here in Philadelphia, but we can acknowledge something. Even though he hasn't had a great year, he's a really, really good pitcher. And when he's on the mound, he really gives the Atlanta Braves a chance to win. Clay Holmes is on the mound for the New York Mets. So the Mets are favored in the game, and they should be. They're the better team. While they're favored via the ESPN analytics, the Braves are actually favored on the money line when you look at the betting odds. Shout out to our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So how great would it be if the Phils win tonight and the Mets lose to Spencer Strider and the Braves? Then you're rolling into a weekend series where the Phils are hot, the Mets are ice cold, they're coming into your ballpark. If you win the series, you lead the NL East, and all of a sudden you've just caught up to them real quick when you were 5.5 games back just like a week ago. How awesome would that be? It's an amazing opportunity. The stage could not be set more perfectly for a great weekend of June baseball. And you know what this is? This just popped into my head because I'm stupid and I have these dumb thoughts roll through my head. You know how St. Louis, they have the arch? It's the gateway to the West. Well, you know what this weekend series is? And I don't want to look too far ahead because the Phils still have to take care of business tonight. I don't want them to go in and be thinking about traveling back and playing the Mets and this, that. No, focus on the Marlins. But me, I'm not playing tonight. Rob Thompson is sitting me. Inappropriate comments, he said. I don't know what I said on the podcast, but I can look ahead a little bit. You as a fan can look ahead a bit. You might say, why did you bring up the arch? Did you just forget about it? No, I'm going somewhere with it. This series is like the gateway to the summer for the NL East, right? This is going to be the tone setter for what happens June, July, August, right? This is where you kind of put your mark on how you want this to go. You got swept by the Mets last time at their place. Now it's time for you to prove you can play with this team. It's a really, really big series, as big as one can get in June. A team you haven't played well in a situation where you can take control of the division. So the best way to head into that, build momentum tonight. The best way to build momentum, beat the Marlins comfortably. You know what else would be great? Sanchez needs to really, really dice tonight. Maybe he has a bit of a longer leash because you want to roll into the series with the Mets with a rested bullpen. So a lot that plays into the Mets series in tonight's game and how this plays out. We'll see how the Phillies do. I think they win. I think they win comfortably. I think it plays out well because that's just how baseball works, right? And I think the Mets lose, and I think you're looking at an even NL East at the top for a monster series tomorrow. We'll talk about that more on tomorrow's episode, but that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much again for joining us. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. I appreciate all of you very, very much, everyone who's done that, everyone who just listens and watches in general. Just thank you. And thank you to the Phillies for making it easy this week with all the drama. How about a drama-free night? We'll talk about it more on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Phillies.